I remember the first time I met Sarah. It was at a mutual friend's party, the kind of gathering that felt more like a reunion than a social event. The moment I walked in, I spotted her across the room, her laughter ringing out like a melody that drew me in. We hit it off immediately, sharing stories and dreams under the soft glow of string lights. Our connection was instant, and from that night forward, it felt like we were destined to be together. We built a life that many would envy, a cozy apartment in the city, shared adventures, and a circle of friends who felt like family. Sarah was vibrant, full of life, and her smile could brighten even the darkest days. I thought I had found my soulmate, the one who would stand by my side through thick and thin. We had our ups and downs like any couple, but I always believed that our love was unshakable. But as the months went by, I noticed subtle changes in Sarah. She became more distant, often glued to her phone, her laughter less frequent. I brushed it off, convincing myself that she was just busy with work or stressed about life in general. I wanted to trust her to believe that everything was fine. After all, we had built a life together filled with shared dreams and a promise of forever. Yet deep down, a nagging feeling tugged at my gut. Was I just being paranoid? The day everything changed began like any other. I was scrolling through my messages when I received a text from my cousin Jake. We had always been close, sharing secrets and supporting each other through tough times. But this message was different. It was a screenshot, and as I opened it, my heart raced. The image revealed Sarah's Tinder profile, complete with a bright smile that felt like a slap to my face. My mind raced as I processed the words beneath her photo, flirty messages exchanged with various men, each more shocking than the last. I felt a wave of nausea crash over me as I read through the messages. There she was, flirting, laughing, and inviting strangers into her life in a way she had never done with me. I was frozen, unable to fully grasp what I was seeing. Jake had sent the message with concern, but all I could focus on was the betrayal unfolding before my eyes. My heart felt heavy and my breath quickened as anger bubbled within me. How could she? How could she do this to us, to our love? In that moment, I felt like the world around me had shattered. The laughter we once shared felt hollow, and every memory we had built together began to unravel. I was filled with disbelief, followed closely by a seething anger. I wanted to scream, to confront her right then and there, but I felt paralyzed, caught in a whirlwind of emotions I couldn't control. I paced the room, my heart racing as I replayed every moment, every conversation, trying to find the signs I had missed. I felt like a fool, a naive husband who had trusted blindly. The pain of betrayal gnawed at me, and I couldn't shake the image of her smiling face on that profile. How could she betray me like this? How could she risk everything we had built together for a fleeting thrill? I took a deep breath, trying to quell the storm brewing inside me. I needed answers, and I needed to confront her. But part of me hesitated, fearing the confrontation would lead to an irreparable rift. Yet I knew I couldn't let this slide. I had to know why, and I had to know how long this had been going on. As the reality of the situation sank in, I felt a mix of anger, confusion, and heartbreak. I was standing on the precipice of a nightmare I never thought I'd face, and I had to take the next step. The hours that followed my cousin's shocking revelation felt like an eternity. I couldn't focus on anything else. My mind was a chaotic storm of thoughts and emotions. I replayed every moment I had shared with Sarah, trying to decipher when things had gone wrong. I remembered our last date night, the way she had smiled at me over dinner, the warmth of her hand in mine. Had it all been a facade? As night fell, I found myself sitting in our dimly lit living room, the soft glow of the lamp casting shadows that danced eerily against the walls. My heart raced every time I heard the sound of her footsteps approaching. Sarah had come home late as usual, and I had to confront her. I felt a knot in my stomach, a mix of dread and determination. I knew I couldn't let her brush this off or deflect the conversation. I needed to know the truth. When she walked in, her expression shifted from casual to curious as she took in my tense demeanor. "Hey, everything okay?" she asked, her voice light and cheerful as if she hadn't just shattered my world. "Sit down," I managed to say, my voice low and steady despite the turmoil inside. The way her brow furrowed told me she sensed something was off. She cautiously took a seat across from me, the air thick with unspoken tension. "I got a message from Jake today." I began, trying to keep my tone even. I wanted to scream, to hurl accusations, but I forced myself to remain calm. "He sent me something about you." Her eyes widened and I could see the color drain from her face. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice suddenly shaky. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots. I watched her expression change as she scrolled through the messages, her eyes darting from one line to the next. Confusion morphed into shock, and then, to my disbelief, she laughed, a nervous, almost incredulous laugh. "This is a joke, right? You can't be serious." "Do I look like I'm joking?" I shot back, my anger bubbling to the surface. "You think this is funny? You're out there flirting with other men while I'm here thinking everything is fine." Her laughter faded, replaced by a look of panic. I can explain," she stammered, her voice trembling as she looked at me, searching for understanding. "It was just a phase. I was feeling lonely and I didn't mean to hurt you. I thought it was harmless." "Harmless?" I repeated, incredulous. "You didn't think it was harmless when you were sending those messages, when you were flirting. This isn't just a phase, Sarah, this is betrayal." She opened her mouth to respond, but the words seemed to fail her. Instead, she looked down at her hands, her fingers twisting nervously. I took a moment to collect my thoughts, but the pain coursing through me made it hard to breathe. "I trusted you," I said, my voice cracking. "I thought we were happy. I thought we were building a future together. How could you do this to me?" Tears welled in her eyes as she finally met my gaze. "I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. I felt lost. I thought I could find something I was missing." "Missing?" I felt a surge of anger at her words. "What were you missing, Sarah? Was it me? Was it our life together? Because it sure doesn't look like you were trying to fix things with me." "I know I messed up," she said, her voice breaking. "But please, let's talk about this. I want to make it right. I love you." The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Love. How could she say that after what she had done? I felt my heart harden, the pain morphing into a cold rage. "Love, is that what you call this? Because it doesn't feel like love to me," I replied, my voice low and steady. "It feels like betrayal, and it feels like you don't care about what we built together." She reached out, trying to take my hand, but I pulled away, the distance between us feeling insurmountable. "I need time to think," I said, my heart pounding in my chest. "I can't do this right now." As I turned away from her, I felt a mix of anger and heartbreak. I had never imagined that our love could crumble so quickly, and now I was left standing in the ruins, unsure of what came next. The confrontation had left me reeling, and as I lay in bed that night, the silence felt deafening. I stared at the ceiling, memories of our happier times replaying in my mind, but they were now tainted by her betrayal. I couldn't shake the feeling of loss, the realization that everything I thought I knew about her and us had been a lie. The days that followed the confrontation felt like a blur. I moved through the motions of daily life, but everything felt surreal. Each morning, I would wake up to the same empty, aching void where my trust for Sarah used to reside. The apartment that once felt like a haven now felt like a prison, a constant reminder of the betrayal that had shattered my world. I tried to keep busy, throwing myself into work, but every time I glanced at my phone, I half expected another message from Jake, or worse, another one from Sarah. Each time she entered the room, I felt a rush of conflicting emotions: anger, sorrow, disbelief. It was as if I was living in two separate realities, one where everything was fine and another where my heart was shattered. Despite my resolve to distance myself, Sarah kept trying to reach out. She would leave notes around the apartment, little reminders of our love, each one a painful reminder of what we had lost. "I'm sorry," they read. "I love you, please forgive me." I couldn't bring myself to read them fully. The words felt hollow and insincere. One evening, after another long day at work, I returned home to find her sitting at the kitchen table. She had made dinner, a meal I had loved in happier times. The aroma filled the air, taunting me with memories of our shared laughter over candle-lit dinners. But tonight, it only made my stomach churn. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice soft and pleading. I could see the exhaustion etched on her face, but I felt no sympathy. I knew she was hurting, but so was I, and I didn't know how to reconcile our pain. "Talk about what, Sarah? About how you've been lying to me? about how you thought it was okay to seek validation from strangers. I snapped, my patience wearing thin. I made a mistake, she said, her voice cracking. I was feeling neglected and I didn't know how to express it. I thought I could find something outside our marriage, but it was a stupid decision. I want to fix this. I want to work on us. Work on us? I echoed, disbelief flooding my voice. How can I trust you after this? How can I believe that you won't do it again? I'll do anything, she said, her eyes pleading. I'll go to counseling, I'll be completely open with you. I just don't want to lose you. The desperation in her voice tugged at something deep within me, but I couldn't let it sway my resolve. You've already lost me, Sarah. You just don't realize it yet. Silence hung heavy between us, the weight of our shattered dreams pressing down on my chest. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down into a chasm of uncertainty. Every moment spent with her felt like a reminder of the love we once had, now tainted by betrayal. That night, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling while she lay beside me, her back turned. I felt an overwhelming sense of loneliness, despite the physical presence of the woman I once loved. I wanted to believe her words, to hope that we could somehow return to the way things were, but the reality of her actions loomed larger than my desire for reconciliation. In the days that followed, I found myself wrestling with my emotions. I was angry, hurt, confused, and yet there was a part of me that wanted to forgive her. I thought about the life we had built, the plans we had made, and the love we had shared. But the thought of her with another man, laughing and flirting, gnawed at my insides. I began to reflect on my own role in our relationship. Had I been neglectful? Had I failed to see the signs that she was struggling? I wished I could turn back time and approach her differently, but the truth was, I had trusted her completely. And now that trust was gone, replaced by a pervasive sense of doubt. One evening after work, I decided to take a walk to clear my head. The cool air hit my face and I breathed deeply, trying to find some semblance of clarity. As I wandered through the park, I saw couples laughing and holding hands, and I felt a pang of envy. How could they look so happy while I felt so lost? I sat on a bench, watching the world go by, and let my mind drift. I thought about my future, my dreams, my aspirations. Did I still want to build a life with Sarah? Or was I better off moving on, starting fresh without the weight of betrayal hanging over me? As I wrestled with these questions, I realized something important. I needed to prioritize my own well-being. I had spent so long trying to save our marriage that I had neglected to consider what I truly wanted. I needed to take a step back and evaluate the situation without the fog of emotions clouding my judgment. That night, I returned home with a newfound determination. I would give Sarah one last chance to prove her commitment, but I would also start focusing on myself. I needed to reclaim my sense of self-worth and figure out what I wanted moving forward. As we sat across from each other at the table, I took a deep breath and prepared to speak. I had a plan, a path towards healing, if only she was willing to meet me halfway. The atmosphere in the apartment was thick with tension as I prepared to lay out my thoughts to Sarah. I had spent the last few days reflecting on our situation, and I knew I needed to be honest about where I stood. I believed in second chances, but only if both parties were willing to put in the effort. It was time for me to draw a line, to set boundaries that would protect my heart and guide our next steps. Sarah, we need to talk, I said as I sat down at the kitchen table. She looked up from her coffee, eyes wide and filled with a mixture of hope and apprehension. I could see she was nervous, and part of me felt a pang. Empathy. But I reminded myself that this was about more than just her feelings. It was about my healing and the future I wanted to build, whether it included her or not. I've thought a lot about everything that happened, I continued, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm willing to try and work on our relationship, but it has to be different. I can't go back to the way things were before. Trust has been broken, and it's going to take time to rebuild it. She nodded slowly, her expression serious. Understand, I know I have a lot to prove. I'll do whatever it takes to show you I'm committed to us. Okay, I said, feeling a flicker of hope amidst the uncertainty. But there are conditions. First, I want us to go to couples therapy. I think we need an objective third party to help us navigate this. I can't do it alone, and I don't want to keep going in circles. Therapy, she echoed, her brow furrowing slightly. Do you really think that will help? I do. I replied firmly. It's a way for us to communicate openly and address the issues that led to this mess. We need to understand ourselves and each other better if we're going to move forward. I agree, she said, relief washing over her face. I'll find a therapist and we can start as soon as possible. Good, I said, feeling a small sense of accomplishment. But there's more. I need you to be completely honest with me from now on. No more secrets, no more hiding things. If something is bothering you, I want to know about it, even if it's uncomfortable. I promise, she said, her voice earnest. I'll be open with you. Lastly, I want you to delete your Tinder profile and any other dating apps you might have. I need to know that you're fully committed to our relationship and that there's no temptation lingering. She hesitated for a moment and I could see the internal struggle on her face. I will, she finally said, her voice shaky. I'll do it right now. As she reached for her phone, I felt a wave of anxiety wash over me. Would this really be enough? Could we truly rebuild our relationship from the ashes of betrayal? I wanted to believe it, but the scars were still fresh, and trust was not something that could be easily restored. She sat back down after deleting the apps, her expression one of determination mixed with fear. Thank you for giving me another chance, she said, her voice breaking. I know I don't deserve it, but I'll do everything I can to prove to you that I'm serious about this. I hope you mean it, I replied, my heart heavy with uncertainty. I don't want to go through this again. I can't handle that kind of pain. I understand, she said, tears glistening in her eyes. And I'm so sorry for everything. I never wanted to hurt you. I've been so lost and I thought I could find something to fill the void. But I see now how wrong I was. As we sat in silence, I felt a flicker of hope amidst the despair. Maybe this was the turning point we needed. But as the days turned into weeks, I found myself constantly on edge, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Each time Sarah left the house, my mind spiraled into dark thoughts. Was she really committed to changing, or was this just another act of deceit? We began attending therapy sessions, and I found it both a relief and a challenge. The therapist guided us through our feelings, helping us articulate the pain and confusion that had arisen between us. I learned to express my hurt while she worked on understanding her motivations and actions. The sessions were emotionally draining, but they also provided a space for us to reconnect and communicate in ways we hadn't before. Sarah opened up about her feelings of loneliness and inadequacy, sharing how she had felt neglected in our relationship. It was hard to hear, but I realized that I had also been wrapped up in my own world, often overlooking her needs. We had both contributed to the distance that had grown between us, and it was a painful realization. Slowly, as we worked through our issues, I found a glimmer of the love we once had. I saw signs of the woman I fell in love with, the one who had made me laugh and brought joy to my life. But the shadows of betrayal still loomed large, and I couldn't shake the anxiety that accompanied each step forward. One evening, after a particularly intense therapy session, we returned home feeling emotionally drained. I sat on the couch, staring at the wall, lost in thought. Sarah sat beside me, her hand resting on my knee. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. "I'm just thinking," I replied, my voice distant, "about everything we've been through and how much work we still have ahead of us." "I know it's a lot," she said, her fingers gently squeezing my knee, "but I'm committed to this. I want to fight for us." "Do you really?" I asked, turning to face her, "because I need to know that you're all in. I can't keep doing this if you're not fully invested." "I am," she said, her eyes earnest. "I want to rebuild our trust and I want you to feel safe with me again. I'll do whatever it takes." I nodded, feeling a mix of hope and skepticism. "I want that too. But it's going to take time and I need you to be patient with me." "I will," she promised, her voice steady. "We'll take it one day at a time." As we sat there, I felt a flicker of something I hadn't felt in a long time, a sense of possibility. It wouldn't be easy, and the road ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but perhaps we could find a way to heal together. As the weeks turned into months, Sarah and I navigated the rocky terrain of rebuilding our relationship. The therapy sessions became a regular part of our routine, a space where we could both express our feelings and confront the issues that had led us to this point. I was still guarded, but I noticed glimmers of hope in our interactions, small gestures of affection. shared laughter, and a renewed sense of companionship. Despite these positive signs, the shadows of betrayal lingered like a storm cloud overhead. I found myself constantly questioning Sarah's motives, scrutinizing her every action. It was exhausting. Each time she received a text or spent time on her phone, a wave of anxiety washed over me. I had to remind myself that she was trying, she was committed to making things right, but the scars of her betrayal were still fresh, and my heart was hesitant to fully trust again. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day, I returned home to find Sarah waiting for me in the living room. She had made dinner, and the aroma of her cooking wafted through the air, reminding me of the early days of our relationship when everything felt effortless and joyous. I felt a pang of nostalgia mixed with apprehension as I approached the table. "Hey," she said, her eyes lighting up as I walked in. "I made your favorite." "Thanks," I replied, forcing a smile. The meal looked delicious, but I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled in my stomach. As we sat down to eat, I tried to engage in conversation, but my mind kept drifting back to the betrayal. I wanted to enjoy this moment, to savor the food and the company, but the memories of her infidelity loomed large. "Is everything okay?" Sarah asked, her voice soft and concerned. "Yeah, just tired," I replied, avoiding her gaze. "Are you sure?" she pressed. "I feel like there's something on your mind." I sighed, putting my fork down. "It's just I'm trying, Sarah. I really am, but sometimes it feels like I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop. I don't want to live in fear of being hurt again." "I understand," she said, her voice earnest. "I'm working hard to show you that I'm committed to us. I don't want you to feel that way." "I know you're trying," I admitted, feeling a wave of frustration wash over me. "But it's hard for me to just forget what happened. I don't want to keep bringing it up, but it's like this shadow that follows me everywhere." "I don't want to be a source of pain for you," she said, her eyes welling with tears. "I'm so sorry for what I did. I wish I could take it back." "I know you do," I replied, my heart aching for her. "But we can't just ignore it. It's part of our story now, and we have to face it together." We finished dinner in a heavy silence, the weight of our conversation hanging in the air. I felt a mix of anger and sadness, torn between my desire to forgive her and the pain of her betrayal. After dinner, I retreated to the living room, needing space to think. As I sat on the couch, I couldn't help but reflect on how far we had come. There were moments when I saw glimpses of the Sarah I loved, the woman who had once filled my life with joy. But the fear of losing her again kept me on edge. I wanted to believe that we could heal, but I was also terrified of being hurt once more. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, grappling with my emotions. I knew that healing wouldn't happen overnight. It would take time, patience, and a willingness to confront the pain head-on. But as I turned to look at Sarah, sleeping peacefully beside me, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe we could find a way back to each other, even if the road ahead was uncertain. The next day, I made a decision. I would open up to Sarah about my feelings, about the fear that still lingered in my heart. I realized that if we were going to rebuild our relationship, we needed to be transparent with each other. That evening, after dinner, I took a deep breath and sat down with her. "Can we talk?" I asked, my heart racing. "Of course," she replied, concern etched on her face. "I've been thinking a lot about us," I began, choosing my words carefully. "And I want you to know that I'm trying to move forward, but I still feel this weight of fear and anxiety. I'm scared of losing you again, and I don't want to keep living in that state." "I get it," she said, her voice steady. "I can't imagine how hard this has been for you. I want you to feel safe with me again, and I'll do whatever it takes to help you feel that way." "I appreciate that," I said, feeling a warmth spread through my chest. "But I think we need to be open about our fears. I don't want to bottle things up only to have them explode later." "Agreed," she said, nodding. "Let's make it a point to check in with each other regularly. I want us to be able to talk about what we're feeling, no matter how uncomfortable it may be." As we continued to talk, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. It was a small step, but it felt significant. For the first time in weeks, I felt like we were on the same page, committed to facing our challenges together. But as the days turned into weeks, I realized that healing wasn't a linear process. There were moments of progress, followed by setbacks. I would catch myself feeling hopeful one day, only to be overwhelmed by doubt the next. It was exhausting, and I found myself questioning whether I was strong enough to see this through. One afternoon, while scrolling through social media, I stumbled upon a post that made my heart drop. It was a picture of Sarah with a group of friends, laughing and smiling, and my gut twisted at the sight. I couldn't help but feel a surge of jealousy and anxiety. What if she was still seeking attention from others? What if she hadn't truly changed? That evening, I brought it up during our therapy session. "I saw a picture of Sarah with friends today," I said, my voice shaky. "And it brought back all those feelings of inadequacy and fear. I don't want to feel this way, but I can't shake the anxiety." As we discussed my feelings, I realized that I needed to find a way to separate my fears from reality. Sarah wasn't the same person she had been during her infidelity. She was fighting for our relationship, and I needed to give her the credit she deserved. But as I left the session, the doubt still lingered in the back of my mind. Could we truly overcome this? Would I ever feel completely secure in our relationship again? I knew the road ahead would be difficult, but I was determined to keep moving forward. It was time to confront my fears head-on, to trust in the progress we had made, and to allow myself to hope for a brighter future together. As spring began to bloom around us, I felt a mixture of trepidation and cautious optimism. The days grew longer, and with them came a renewed sense of hope. Sarah and I had been working hard in therapy, and I could see the genuine effort she was making to reconnect with me. Yet the scars of betrayal still lingered, and I often found myself grappling with the fear of it all unraveling again. One evening, after a particularly enlightening therapy session, Sarah and I decided to take a walk in the park. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, and for the first time in a long time I felt a sense of peace wash over me. We walked side by side, the tension between us easing as we chatted about everything and nothing. "I really enjoyed today's session," Sarah said, glancing up at me with a small smile. "I feel like we're making real progress." "Me too," I replied, feeling a warmth spread in my chest. "It's nice to see that we can still talk about our feelings without it turning into a fight." As we continued walking, I felt a sense of connection that had been missing for so long. It was as if we were rediscovering each other, two people striving to find their way back to the love we once shared. But even in this moment of clarity, I couldn't help but feel the nagging doubt creeping back in. "Do you ever think about what happened?" I asked cautiously, wanting to gauge her feelings. "I mean, does it ever haunt you?" "Every day," she admitted, her expression earnest. "I think about it all the time. It was a terrible mistake and I'm ashamed of what I did, but I'm also grateful for the chance to try again." "Grateful," I echoed, surprised by her choice of words. "How can you be grateful for that?" "Because it opened my eyes to the things I was taking for granted," she explained, her voice steady. "I realized how much I love you and how much I want to fight for us. I never want to feel that lost again." Her honesty resonated with me, and I felt something shift within me. Perhaps there was a way to move forward to rebuild what had been lost, but I also knew it would take time and effort from both of us. As we continued our walk, I felt a sense of determination rising within me. I wanted to believe that we could overcome this, that we could emerge stronger from the ashes of betrayal. But it would require more than just words. It would require action, commitment, and a willingness to confront our fears together. The following week, we attended another therapy session, and as we sat down, I felt a flicker of anxiety in my stomach, but I was determined to voice my feelings. "I want to talk about trust," I said, looking at our therapist. "I know we've made progress, but I still struggle with the fear of being hurt again." Sarah nodded, her expression serious. "I understand that completely. I want to rebuild that trust, but I know it's going to take time. I'm committed to being open and honest with you." Our therapist guided us through the conversation, helping us articulate our fears and desires. It felt like a breakthrough moment as we both expressed our vulnerabilities. "Trust is built through consistency," our therapist said. "It's about showing up for each other day in and day out." As we left the session, I felt a renewed sense of hope. We had a long way to go, but I was willing to put in the effort. I wanted to believe that we could heal, that we could find our way back to each other. In the weeks that followed, I noticed subtle changes in our relationship. Sarah made a concerted effort to communicate, to check in with me regularly, and to be transparent about her feelings. I began to feel a sense of safety returning, and slowly I started to let my guard down. One evening, as we cuddled on the couch, I felt a wave of warmth and familiarity wash over me. "You know," I said, looking into her eyes, "I think we're really making progress." She smiled, her eyes sparkling. "I feel it too. It's like we're rediscovering each other all over again." "I want us to keep moving forward," I said, my heart racing. "I want to build a future together, but I need to know that we're both committed to this." "Absolutely," she replied, her tone earnest. "I'm all in. I want to spend my life with you." As we sat together, I felt a sense of peace settle within me. It wouldn't be easy, and there would still be moments of doubt and fear, but I was learning to trust again. I was learning to embrace the complexities of our relationship, and in doing so, I was also learning to forgive, not just Sarah, but myself as well. The summer months passed, and with them came a sense of renewal. We began to explore new activities together, reigniting the spark that had initially drawn us to each other. We hiked, traveled, and spent lazy weekends enjoying each other's company. It felt good to rediscover the joy that had once defined our relationship. But even amidst the laughter and shared adventures, I remained vigilant. I knew that healing wasn't a destination. It was an ongoing journey. There would be challenges ahead, but I was committed to facing them head on. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, I turned to Sarah and said, "I'm proud of us. We've come a long way." She smiled, leaning her head against my shoulder. "We have, and I believe we're stronger for it." In that moment, I felt a sense of hope blossom within me. Maybe we could truly rebuild our relationship brick by brick, trust by trust. It wouldn't be perfect, but it was ours, and I was willing to fight for it. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I realized that love was not just about perfection. It was about resilience, forgiveness, and the willingness to grow together. And in that realization, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. Together, we would navigate the complexities of our relationship, embracing both the light and the shadows as we forged a new path forward. And as I sat there with Sarah, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. I was ready to take that leap of faith.